everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cosmically Curious with your host, Gemini Jess. I apologize for not making it to the episode last week. I was very busy. I had multiple birthdays, including my own. I was very tired, and after all, I am 32 now, so I just have a lot less energy. That's actually a joke because I feel like every year that I get older, I get more energy, I'm more passionate, I have more money, I make better decisions, I have more opportunities. And so whatever they said about, 30-year-old women being boring and old and wrinkly and out of their prime are completely incorrect. I truly feel like the 30s have been amazing. And sure, sometimes I get a little panic mode-y about the fact that I'm 32, and maybe I'll feel different when I'm 34, 35. But for now, things are great. I'm not freaking out about my age. I feel like I've got a lot of great things going for me. And yeah, every day I wake up and I feel like my life is just beginning. Like there's so much to do, so much to see, so many people to meet. And maybe that is partially a gift that I have been given from my astrology practice because I understand the cycles and the timing of our life, and that there's not one specific moment in time where our life ends or our life begins. Our life is constantly unfolding and reshaping itself around us, and the way that we choose to move through experiences and opportunities and relationships. So yeah, happy birthday to me. It's great. Uranus is still conjunct my sun. I'm starting to understand what that is about. It's funny because the sun is a lot of times referenced as our identity and our vitality and the things that light us up. And Uranus often comes along through a transit to shake that up, to shift, to provide new insights and new ideas and new ways of doing things that are ultimately for a good cause. And it says here, let's switch some things up. Let's challenge your current feelings, existence, and experience around this planetary energy. And I really do feel like my identity and who I am is heavily, heavily shifting. And it can be very discombobulating and confusing, truly, because I know myself to be somebody, and she is shifting and changing, and it brings a lot of questions, it brings a lot of uncertainty. But as always, I am just here to listen, to continuously move forward, and see where I end up on the other side. So with that said, before we dive into the astrology of the week, I did just want to touch on the Sagittarius full moon that we had on Sunday. So yesterday, if you're watching this on Monday. And this full moon was at 9 degrees Sagittarius at 3:44 a.m. And so with every full moon, it's important to retroactively look to around 6 months ago on that new moon. So the Sagittarius new moon that was on December 19th, 2025. I saw the moon last night. I'm recording this on Friday, the 29th. So the full moon hasn't really happened yet, but I was driving home last night after dark and I could see the moon, and it was so big, which is so very Sagittarius. It's ruled by Jupiter, the biggest planet in the sky. When we think about full moons and Sagittarius energy in general, there's this idea of meaning making and our belief systems, and also this idea of the cosmic joke. Sagittarius reminds us to laugh a little bit about the things that are happening in our life, because nothing is that serious. The Sagittarius thing is like, hey, we're literally all gonna die. We go through all this stuff, the world goes through all these things, and the one thing that none of us can avoid is simply death and dying. And when you really think about that concept, I mean, I know for myself, when I really think about that, it gets a little existential up in here, right? It's a concept that we all know to be true, but yet many, if not most of us, don't actually fully know it or realize it or understand it. But with this full moon, I think there's really a representation of coming out of a winter and a spring into summer, because 6 months ago was the end of December. We were in the depths of winter. We were right around the holiday season and the year was almost over. And so it's kind of this midpoint check-in before we get to Cancer season on June 21st and the summer solstice when summer actually begins. But really this time to look back at the last 6 months. What kind of goals or intentions did you set towards the end of the year, and where are you at with those? I know for me, looking back at my journal prompts from around this time, there's two very big themes. One theme is entering into a new relationship with somebody that I care deeply about. We're still going strong. The second thing is continuing to build my business, and I'll be honest with you, that has not gone as far as I'd like it to. So I really think that these full moon moments are simply a time to look back and reflect. It's not about being hard on yourself or thinking, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, but simply just pulse checking where you are at with the things that you want to be focusing on and making note of that so you can move forward with that in mind. I don't think you should ever be sitting on a full moon and thinking, oh man, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Like, it's not that serious. We all have life. We cannot predict how we're going to move through the next 6 months of our lives because we don't really know what's going to happen. It's really interesting to be paying attention to my Uranus Sun conjunction and how that has played out over the last few months in my life as I'm reshaping and redefining my own identity now as somebody who is in a relationship, and a relationship that she actually wants to be in and that she actually wants to build, because I have defined myself as a self-contained, independent, autonomous woman for many, many years. And every relationship that I've been in, I have had one foot out the door, ready to go at a moment's notice. And we don't need to get into that whole thing today, but it's interesting to see how I am learning how to hold more parts of myself, my relationship, my business, my friendships, and my community, and how something can kind of come in that you weren't really expecting or that you didn't really know was on its way, and I'm literally reshaping and reorganizing my life. And it's great, it's beautiful, but it's really freaking hard. And that to me is the Uranus conjunct my sun. And then having the Sagittarius full moon come in and really thinking about, man, how am I allowing myself to hold the bigness of it all? Sagittarius is big. It's big life stuff. It's existential. It's like, this is life. This is what we're doing. And how do we hold it all? So I think a good reflection that I'm personally taking for the Sagittarius full moon this Sunday, or this past Sunday when you're watching this, I also did have my first group program launch just a few days after this full moon, Capricorn Currency, which has me feeling lots of ways because I was hoping to have another group program launched by now, which I did not have, but that's okay because life goes on and it'll all work out. But anyways, on to this coming week. We don't have very many transits, actually, so this will be a pretty quick breakdown of the week. The main star of the show this week is Mercury. Mercury is going to be moving into Cancer on Monday, and this is an extra long Mercury transit because Mercury is going to go retrograde on June 29th at 26 degrees Mercury, retrograde backwards through Cancer through July 23rd, where it goes direct again at 6 degrees Cancer. So normally a Mercury transit is about three and a half weeks. This one goes through the middle of August. So basically the rest of our summer is going to be flavored with a Cancer Mercury. Not only that, but it's also going to go retrograde. And all of the Mercury retrogrades this year, the one we had already and the one at the end of the year, they're all in water signs, which I don't think is a coincidence at all. So as Mercury joins Venus and Jupiter in Cancer on Monday, we're really going to continue to explore the idea of the relationship and interconnectedness between our thoughts and our feelings. Mercury is connected to Gemini, and Mercury is very logical. It's very thinking brain. Is that right brain, left brain? I always get them mixed up. But it's very much thinking, processing, analyzing, right? Virgo's also connected to Mercury, so there's this idea of analyzing, connecting the dots, messaging, communicating. It's like that beep, 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 beep. That's Mercury. But when it goes into Cancer, Cancer is our intuitive emotional world, our emotional psychology, our emotional reactions. It's also our intuition. Venus and Jupiter are still in Cancer for a little bit, so for at least the next month or so, there's going to be a lot of water in the sky, and there's going to be a lot of intuitive emotional feeling and thinking and processing, and our emotions may run the show more than they do at other times of the year. Which one rules the show more for you? Is it your thoughts or your feelings? Because our thoughts informs our feelings, which informs our thoughts. It's like that loop, right? There's a Joe Dispenza book called Becoming Supernatural, and he talks about this concept of our thoughts become our feelings, and those inform our thoughts and our feelings. And I think there's another thing in there, but it's literally this like loop. So they're interconnected, and which one rules the show? Which one do you listen to more? They both have a place in our day and in our life that need to take up space. Mercury in Cancer is a reminder to speak from our heart, express our emotional needs, remembering to also take care of and nourish ourselves, because Cancer is oftentimes connected to mother and home and ancestry and nourishment and emotional nourishment. It kind of goes back to this idea, especially when the sun moves into Cancer here in a few weeks, of the idea of we cannot take care of others if we are not first taking care of ourselves and nourishing ourselves, whether that's emotionally, materially, physically. We really can't show up for people fully if we can't show up for ourselves. The two other things I want to cover with this Cancer energy that we will continue to play with, especially once Mercury goes retrograde, is taking things personal and our ancestry, nostalgia, lineage, family, and roots. So Cancer takes things personal. I have a Venus in Cancer, and I take things very personally. Everything feels like a personal attack. Everything feels like it's the end of the world in terms of any sort of conflict. That's my Libra moon coming in, but that's for another day. But really realizing that not everything that people are saying or doing is personal. It's actually more than likely not personal. People are so much more worried about their own experiences internally than they are about what you're doing. And so I think that's a really good lesson, because Mercury really is about how we perceive information and process it. And so if we're perceiving everything as a personal threat or taking everything personally, that's really going to affect our way to show up in relationships, show up in our job, and just move through the world without feeling like everybody's out to get you or that everything is a jab on you, because it's most likely not. We are projections of people. They're just projecting their own stuff on us. It's not really about us. The other thing about memories and lineage and ancestry and emotional imprints from childhood, Cancer represents our inner child. It's the moon. It's our most private, psychological, internal, emotional world, a lot of which is formed through our conditioning as children. And so the fact that Mercury is now in Cancer and also going to be retrograding, retrogrades are already a time of reflection and looking to the past. I think that's going to be really, really heightened this summer as Mercury goes retrograde through Cancer. A really great time to be with family, to untangle family webs, to untangle the conditions that are so deeply ingrained within you that you don't actually identify with as a sovereign, conscious adult now. I want you to pay attention to where Cancer is in your chart, and if you have any placements in Cancer, because as Mercury moves through Cancer, retrogrades back through Cancer, and then moves forward again, there's going to be a sense of revisiting some themes this summer where in terms of where Cancer falls within your chart. So if you have any planets in Cancer, I have my Venus in 4th degree Cancer, so that will be activated just here this week, and then it'll kind of be touched on with the retrograde, but barely, and then back through. So if you have any planets from 6th degree to about 26th degree Mercury, that's what you really want to pay attention to, because that's where the retrograde is going to truly re-hit those points. And then also looking to the house that Cancer is in your chart for more information as to what area of life Mercury is going to be moving through. Just a few days after Mercury moves into Cancer, on Wednesday to be exact, it is going to square Neptune in Aries. It's also going to square Saturn in Aries, but not until next week, I believe. So there's a few things that are going to be tipping us off right away around what this Mercury in Cancer theme is going to be for us. And with Neptune in Aries as that square point, this is a lot of emotional projection to me. Cancer and Aries are very, very different. They butt heads, but they get along on certain things. They are both cardinal signs. They are action takers. They get things done. They protect those that they love. They protect what needs protecting, that they believe needs protecting. Cancer is the mama bear. Aries is the warrior. A lot of times Cancer is underestimated because even though it is a water sign, it is the cardinal water sign, and it goes after what it wants. It knows what it needs to do, and it knows who it needs to protect along the way. So Cancer and Aries really butt heads in terms of this idea of really needing to feel into something versus actually just impulsively doing something and trusting your instincts. A conversation of intuition and instinct is very loud here with the Cancer Aries square, because what is the difference? I think about this a lot, this idea of my instincts versus my intuition, and I think it's something that I'm still really learning. But Aries and its instincts and its impulse is very primal. It represents that first entrance into the world, not conditioned by anything. Aries is experiencing everything for the first time. But by the time we get to Cancer and the second cardinal sign, there's this idea of being conditioned by our surroundings, by our childhood upbringing, and the experiences that we have in the society and the conditions that we are literally born into. And where does our intuition come from, right? If our instincts are coming from simply our primal, most human, raw body, where is our intuition coming from? So I think that's an interesting thing to play with and think about this week. I will say that with Mercury squaring Neptune like this, there may be a sense of clarity early this week around your emotions or what you truly want. There can be a lot of reactivity and emotional triggers here, and really just letting things be for a day or two, because it can feel really discombobulating with Neptune. By the time Mercury squares off with Saturn, there's going to be a louder sense of action or lesson or consequence that we are going to be working with. Whereas with Neptune, it's confusing. Neptune blurs the lines. It makes our reality less real or easily graspable. And so with Cancer here, it goes back to the idea of taking things personal and that reality that maybe it actually isn't personal. Aries is like, yo, chill the fuck out. It's not that serious. Nobody's thinking about you as much as you think they are. That's that Neptune to Mercury square energetic that may be playing out the first half of this week. Other than that, there really wasn't anything that I felt called to speak on this week. Looking at the chart for the beginning of the week, energetic wise, like I said, Mercury is now officially in Cancer. It's joined Venus and Jupiter there. So we now officially have a Cancer stellium, aka a lot of water, Cancerian energy in the sky. We just came out of that Sagittarius full moon, so we're kind of coming down from whatever that was, whatever came to light and was illuminated for us over the weekend. The sun is still in Gemini for 2-ish weeks. Uranus will be in Gemini for 7 years, so that's just chilling there now. We have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which they will also be flavoring the backdrop of the astrology in our world for the next 2.5, Saturn 2.5 years, Neptune 14 years. And then we do start the week off with that moon in Sagittarius, but ultimately really starting the week off with a Cancer or a Capricorn moon Tuesday. We also have Mars in Taurus, so there's that sense of grounded energy. There's a lot of varying energy, which is good. The elements are a little bit more balanced. We have more to work with. We're more receptive to these different frequencies because we're not slopping through, 7 planets in Cancer or I think it was 7 in Aries in April, right? That was a lot. You could feel the concentrated energy, but now we're a little bit more balanced. We've got a little bit more to work with here in terms of where we can go. The last thing I'll note is that Chiron is at the 29 degree mark of Aries. And I haven't talked too much about Chiron before, but 29 degrees is a pretty important point. And so it will be moving into Taurus early June, I think, mid-June. And we'll talk about that here in a few weeks because I need to sit with that a little bit more. But that is a pretty big shift that we're having happening here, especially on a collective level. The Aries Chiron wounding in our society is very much visible and pertinent. And so we'll talk about that here in the next few weeks. We have the North and the South Node at 4 degrees Pisces, South Node at 4 degrees Virgo. So we are almost on our way out of that transit as well, which is super interesting because we're going to have it move into the South Node in Leo and the North Node in Aquarius, which I am so excited for because I'm not going to lie, this Virgo Pisces axis point has been very interesting and I've watched it play out in real time, especially, I'll just say it, North Node in Pisces, our society has become extremely and much more religious. Lots more conversations happening about God and spirituality, and ideally for the better, but not completely for the better. Coming from a girl who grew up in Catholic school and is no longer Catholic. So anyways, I digress on that. We'll talk about that stuff as it comes up. We do have some pretty big energetic shifts happening in July. That's the month to look out for. Truthfully, there's going to be some big old collective things happening. But with that said, hope you all have a splendid week. My books are now officially open for June, mostly only the first 2 weeks of June. It's pretty limited due to some things that I have planned the second half of June, but I now have 2 offerings. I have my birthday reading, which I love, and it's so fun to do. It's where we pull your solar return chart, look at your transits and your progressed moon and some other techniques, and we get a feel for what the next year of your life is going to look like. It's so fun. It's a time to reflect on the last year of life, celebrate it, and plan ahead, and they are my favorite readings to do. And then I also have my Alive astrology session, which is more of a deep dive into your natal birth chart. However, we will look at transits, and these are also coming with a 30-minute integration call that you will schedule after our first session that must be completed within 2 to 4 weeks after the first call, because I'm realizing the more I'm doing this that these one-off astrology sessions simply do not do you any good. You need to have integration, you need to have accountability, and you need to continue to come back to your birth chart and what it's here to teach you and the energetic frequencies that you are moving through at that point in your life. So I'm super excited to be offering that integration call. If you are an Aries, Taurus, or Gemini, send me a DM. I have a 20% discount code for you because it's your birthday. Aries and Taurus a little late, but I'm going to give it to you because I don't want to leave you guys left out. And yeah, I hope you all have a splendid week. And as always, stay curious.